Writing prompt. You came home from work early, and when you entered your bedroom, you heard your spouse exclaim, "It's not what it looks like!" in surprise. But after taking in the scene for a few minutes, you have to admit that you have no clue what exactly you are looking at. The end of the world began with a donut and coffee at Jorge's bakery. After chatting with Jorge for a bit about the horses running at the track, I drove to the office. It seemed a bit empty for a Tuesday, but most people were on a hybrid schedule, allowed to work from home a few days per week. Little did I know that my layoff was going to trigger a global cataclysm. I looked around and saw my coworkers, some sobbing while emptying their desk drawers. Susan and Timothy were waiting at my desk with a cardboard box. "I'm so sorry, Henri. Listen, we are being laid off next week too, so we are in the same boat." Except they were not in the same boat. Most likely they were getting much better severance packages. They informed me that I had 2 weeks of health insurance left, and I would receive my unused vacation time on my final paycheck. That was it. I had worked for Bizicorp for over 10 years, and this is what I get? I packed up my desk and headed back home, tail between my legs, ready to break the news to my wife, Margaret. We were hoping to travel back to her grandmother's place in France this summer. Those plans were now off the table, while I considered all of the cost-cutting measures we would need to take over the coming weeks. As I drove back home, I practiced my speech for Margaret. I wanted to assure her that we were safe and had a nice bit of padding to protect us and ensure that we wouldn't lose the house. Everything was going to be okay. I would be able to reach out to a lot of my contacts, go to some networking events, and spruce up my online profiles. I would be back on my feet in no time, maybe even with a better job and higher salary. I arrived at home to find several cars in the driveway. Oh, that's right. Margaret is having her weekly book club. This is going to be awkward. I had been married to Margaret for over 15 years and she was never one to read books. However, over the past few months she had taken to this book club like a fish to water. She spent late nights in the living room, curled up with a book, scouring through the words, and writing notes in the margins to bring up at the next meeting. She would wear her reader glasses at the tip of her nose, looking like a sagely scholar. She had even started dressing the part, looking more and more like her book club sisters after each meeting. I walked in the door, stealthily sliding my cardboard box into the depths of the coat closet, and called out to Margaret. "Hey love, I got off a little early today. Hope your book club is going okay." There was no answer. I moved to the living room and it was empty. The dining table chairs had been moved to a circle in the middle of the room, a few jackets hanging from their backs, some half-empty wine glasses on the coffee table. I moved through the house, confused and looking for my wife. Then, a bump came from upstairs. Were they hanging out in our bedroom? A million TV tropes of husbands coming home early and catching their spouse ran through my head. Was Margaret having an affair with her book club members? I am certainly open-minded enough to consider that a lonely housewife may explore other avenues of lust, but I trusted Margaret implicitly. No way that anything illicit was happening between those bookworms. I headed for the bedroom, throwing open the door in order to catch them in the act. My mind blanked as I gazed upon an eldritch abomination clawing at an invisible wall, trapped in a salt circle sprinkled in the middle of our hardwood floor. The mattress and box spring had been propped against the wall, making room for the women to each stand on different runes, nude, covered in black, tarry ichor. "Henri! It's not what it looks like!" screamed Margaret. The other women were each chanting in an ancient language, eyes pitch black as they snapped in my direction. My body reeled, trying to comprehend what was happening. As I fell, I must have mistakenly disrupted the salt circle, because within a blink, the creature burst out, snapping Margaret in half. After grabbing the talisman from her lifeless body, the being smashed through the front of our house, growing to the size of a skyscraper. The clouds turned a crimson red and blotted out the sun as a swarm of horrific, otherworldly hellspawn flooded out from a fissure in our front yard.